This feels like 2016 all over again. Donald Trump's clashes with the media have resumed just as soon as he faced loaded questions like you are about to see next, and it came from someone that already had a testy history with the president, Peter Alexander from NBC. You need to see this for yourself before we dive in.
Mr. President, you're a president who has long said that you back the blue, but aren't you sending the message that assaulting officers is okay with these pardons?
No, the opposite. In fact, I'm going to be letting 2 officers from Washington Police, D.C. I believe they're from D.C., but I just approved it. They were arrested, put in jail for 5 years because they went after an illegal, and I guess something happened where something went wrong, and they arrested the 2 officers and put them in jail for going after a criminal. A rough criminal, by the way, and I'm actually releasing. No, I am the friend of police, more than any president that's ever been in this office.
More than 400 of the people that you pardoned, though, assaulted officers. So I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your Vice President wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served, and they've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country. And we had 1,500, we have 16 under review. As you know, we commuted about 16 of them because it looks like they could have done things that were not acceptable for a full pardon. But these people have served years of jail, their lives have been ruined, and in many cases, listen to me for a second, stop interrupting. They served years in jail.
That's classic Donald Trump, but there's more in that last sentence than what the media is telling you right now. Whether the 1,500 people would have been pardoned or not, they still would have served nearly 4 years in jail, which is a fact that already sets them apart from cases of left-wing violence we've seen over the last 4 years. By the way, we're having some really important conversations here every day, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss out. And here's what Peter Alexander pretends not to know. It's that these past 4 years have put the events and cases around January 6th into a much different context than they existed then. For one, just a couple months ago, we had the FBI admit in a report something that they simply refused to answer on, which is the presence of informants or agents on the ground on January 6th. A report from the DOJ Inspector General declared that, quote, 26 FBI confidential human sources were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th in connection with the events of January 6th. Combine that with the fact that it was obviously a heavily politicized event that even became political fodder in the elections, as well as the lawfare that Trump alleges, there's not a lot of room to clutch pearls over a closure like this, especially on behalf of a mainstream media that was tight-lipped about left-wing violence like the BLM riots that we saw in 2020.
If you look at the American public is tired of it. Take a look at the election. Just look at the numbers on the election. We won this election in a landslide because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided, horrible people in terms of crime. You don't talk about all the people that have been killed and what happens to those murderers. Murderers get no time. You take a look at some of these DAs. They go after political opponents, but they don't go after people that shoot people in the street. They're caught. They know where they're living. They know everything. They don't even go up to pick them up anymore. They just let them live there. They know all about it. They have their pictures. They have the tape of the shooting, and they don't even go up and you're talking about this. No, we pardoned people that were treated unbelievably poorly. In the history of our country, there's never been anything take place like this. They're still looking for them, but they're not looking for the murderers, the people that are killing everybody. We are, though, and we're getting them out of the country. We just started that. We're getting them out of the country, and they're going to be gotten out of the country fast. They came in illegally from jails and from prisons. They killed many people. Some of them killed many people. About 50% of them killed more than one person. They were released into our country. That's what we're focused on, not the kind of nonsense you're talking about.
And here's the kicker. It almost is like the mainstream media wants to erase the memory of its silent complicity in not asking the tough questions to the likes of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And that's especially true of something like the BLM riots, which were largely litigated under the Biden presidency in 2021. So what happened there, especially in an unrest in which 25 Americans lost their lives, nearly $2 billion worth of damage occurred? Well, nearly all of the misdemeanor charges in the state of Minnesota where a majority of the violence took place were simply dismissed. And according to a report by The Guardian, most other charges were also dropped as the police mostly used the temporary arrests as a crowd control tactic. While the only major conviction that came from that entire ordeal was that of the police officer Derek Chauvin, it's easy to see just how politically tainted the entire matter had become, just as January 6 was. While you may disagree with these pardons as even some Republicans do, the picture becomes a lot clearer when you put them in context of the past 4 years.
Sir? Yes, sir. First, we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutations?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you again. So this is a big one. Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly. They're expecting it. Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
Were there any cases you did not commute or pardon people?
We're looking at different things, but the commutations would be the ones that we'll take a look, and maybe it'll stay that way, or it'll go to, full pardon.
And the order does require the Bureau of Prisons to act immediately on receipt of the pardons and commutation orders.
By the way, that last sentence was perhaps chosen carefully because there was the suspicion that some people in the entrenched bureaucracy may try to create hurdles for the release of the pardoned prisoners. And according to some reports, there was initial hesitation on behalf of DC prisons to immediately let the pardoned J6ers go free, which even Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA called out. Not just that, it's kind of rich to see a mainstream media talking about backing the blue when not too long ago they had thrown their hat with the so-called defund the police movement instead. Peter Alexander, who was pretty happy 4 years after declaring Donald Trump the former president, was one such individual, but of course he's not the only one because you need to see this classic heated exchange between the media and Trump in 2018 when Peter Alexander became an unintended casualty in Trump's fiery exchange with CNN's Jim Acosta.
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly,
miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President. I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big
the rest
fan
of
of yours either, so
I understand.
To be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly said
you aren't the best.
So now you understand that none of this is new, and this is probably just the beginning of another 4 years of clippable moments like this with Donald Trump's spat against the media. The only difference is that unlike in 2016, the mainstream media is now a hollow husk of its former self, and it's not trusted by a vast majority of the American people. So let me know in the comments how you see the next 4 years panning out, because I think this is a snapshot of what the media is in for until 2028.